Hello, and welcome back to the Spiritually Curious Therapist. Today is a solo episode, and we're going to be talking about your window of tolerance, what it is, and how to widen it. There is so much talk about nervous system regulation and what is the best way to regulate your nervous system and all of these programs and all of these different things. And it can be really overwhelming. In fact, it can lead to dysregulation to try and figure out what is the best thing for you. And so I wanted to take a moment to just talk about what it means to regulate one's nervous system and what are we even talking about when we talk about regulating our nervous system? So, you've probably had the experience of feeling completely overwhelmed. Everything is too much. Your thoughts are racing. Your body feels like it's buzzing or on fire, and you can't seem to calm down no matter what you do. And you've probably also had the opposite experience, feeling completely shut down, flat, numb, like you just can't seem to get going or feel anything much at all. Both of these states are your nervous system doing its job, trying to protect you. But there is a zone in between those two extremes, a zone where you can think clearly, feel your feelings without being overwhelmed by them, connect with other people, and actually be present in your life. That zone has a name, and it is called the window of tolerance. And today we're going to talk about what that is and why it matters, and most importantly, how do we widen it? So, the window of tolerance is a concept that was developed by psychiatrist Dan Siegel, and it's one of the most useful frameworks along with polyvagal theory in terms of understanding why we feel and behave the way that we do. Think of your nervous system as having three zones. The middle zone is your window of tolerance. This is where you're regulated. You can handle what life is throwing at you. You might feel stressed or sad or excited, but those feelings are manageable and you're inside your window. Above the window is what we call hyperarousal. This is the zone of too much. Anxiety, panic, rage, overwhelm, hypervigilance, that fight flight state. Your nervous system is going into that sympathetic energy. The gas pedal is basically floored. Below the window of tolerance is hypoarousal. This is the zone of too little. Numbness, dissociation, exhaustion, shutdown, disconnection. Your nervous system has basically hit the brakes pretty hard and you've gone offline to protect yourself. The important thing to understand is that neither of those states is a character flaw and they're not wrong. Neither means that you're broken or weak or doing life the wrong way. They're automatic and they're biological responses. Your nervous system learned at some point that these responses kept you safe, and it's been running that program ever since. The problem is that when your window is narrow, so we think of it like this, and for those of you who are listening and not watching, I've got my hand, one hand on top of the other, right? And so if you pull those hands apart, your window is much wider. If they come closer together, your window is much smaller. If your window is small, it doesn't take much to push you outside of it. So life becomes very hard to navigate. Small stressors feel really big, relationships are harder, your body often starts signaling distress too. So things like tension, digestive issues, skin reactions, fatigue, all of those things start to pile on. The goal is not to never leave this window. The goal is to make the window wider so that more of your life fits inside of it. If you're familiar with polyvagal theory developed by neuroscientist Stephen Porges, you'll recognize these zones. I talk a lot about polyvagal theory. When we're in our window, we're in that ventral vagal, safe, connected state when our social engagement system is online. We feel present, we feel curious, we feel engaged. When we are in hyperarousal, that's above the window, we're in that sympathetic activation, fight or flight state. And when we're in hypoarousal, we've dropped into that dorsal vagal collapse shutdown, which is the oldest, most primitive survival response. The window of tolerance and polyvagal theory are really describing the same landscape from slightly different angles. And together they give us a really rich map of what's happening in the nervous system at any given moment. So this is where it gets really interesting. Your window of tolerance is shaped by your history, by the experiences your nervous system has lived through, especially the early ones. When we experience stress or threat and we have support, connection, and the ability to move through it, our nervous system learns that hard things are survivable. The window stays wide or gets wider. But when stress or threat is overwhelming, prolonged, or experienced without adequate support, the nervous system adapts by becoming more sensitive, more reactive, more ready to sound the alarm, and that window gets smaller. This isn't a conscious decision. You don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, my window's going to be wide today, or my window's going to be small today. You didn't choose it, and you don't choose it day to day. Your nervous system is doing the only thing it knows how to do, which is protecting you. Chronic stress does this. Trauma does this. Even growing up in an environment that was unpredictable or where your emotions weren't welcomed can do this. I hear a lot in my practice. I have clients who say, I had a great childhood. My parents were always available. I had everything I needed. I can't think of one thing that was not good about my childhood. But when we dig a little bit deeper and we start looking at who was there for you when you were feeling sad, and who would you go to if you were feeling lonely? Who would you talk to about your anger? Was anger expressed in your family? And we realize that emotions were actually not tolerated. That is a huge stressor on the nervous system because the body creates emotions so that they can be expressed. And when we don't have an opportunity to do that in a safe way, we either push them down and don't express them, which creates all sorts of stress on the system, or we externalize them and maybe we react or explode, and then our emotions feel really scary and overwhelming, and we become afraid of them, which again creates hypervigilance in our system. So here's something that surprises a lot of people. You can be a high functioning person, successful, capable, managing life well on the outside, and still have that narrow window of tolerance that your nervous system has developed on the inside. These two things are not mutually exclusive. And when that happens, often what I see is that the distress gets expressed through physical sensations such as pain or symptoms of chronic illness. And the interesting thing is, in our society, it is much more acceptable to be experiencing physical pain or symptoms than it is to be experiencing emotional pain. So here's the really interesting thing. And this is the part that most people want to get to. How do you widen the window of tolerance? And I want to be really honest with you about how it works because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. You cannot think your way into a wider window. Your nervous system does not understand language. As much as we talk about the power of positive thinking, our nervous system does not respond to that. Understanding the concept intellectually, even deeply, does not automatically regulate your nervous system. It doesn't speak the language of logic and analysis. It speaks the language of, are you ready? Experience, sensation, relationship, and repetition. What widens the window is accumulating small experiences of safety over and over again until your nervous system starts to update its operating system about the world. The first thing we do is we start to notice. We don't fix, we don't change, we just notice. When you bring gentle, curious attention to what's happening in your body without trying to make it different, you're sending your nervous system a subtle but powerful signal. You're saying, we can be here with this. It's okay to feel this. We don't have to run from it or shut it down. That is regulation. It doesn't feel super dramatic. It's not this like big light switch that goes off and all of a sudden things are different. It's these very small shifts. The second thing, titration. This is a term from chemistry that means adding something a little bit at a time. Our nervous system cannot handle big changes all at once. It likes familiarity, even if that familiarity is not the best thing for our spiritual, emotional well-being. It will keep us there because it's what it knows. When it comes to nervous system work, we don't dive into the deep end. We find the edges of our window and we touch them gently, briefly, and then we come back to center. So think of it like stretching a muscle. I often tell people, if you do yoga, think about being in a yoga pose. When you come right up to that edge, you take a nice deep breath in and you exhale and you go a little bit further, but you don't force it. You ease into the edge of it. You breathe, you back off, and you do it again. And over time, the muscle gets more flexible. Your nervous system works in exactly the same way. Little bits at a time, slower is faster. The third thing is resourcing. A resource is anything that helps your nervous system feel more settled. It might be a memory of feeling safe. It might be a person whose presence calms you. It might be a physical sensation, such as the feeling of your feet on the ground or the warmth of a cup of tea in your hands, the sound of rain. Resources are not distractions, they're anchors. They're things that bring you back into your body in a safe way. And they gives your nervous system something to return to when it starts to drift toward the edges of the window of tolerance. The fourth thing, and this one is really underrated, and this is what worries me a little bit about some of these programs that are out there that people are doing in isolation. Relationships. Co-regulation is the process of one nervous system helping another nervous system to settle. It is actually how we first learned how to regulate as an infant, through the regulated presence of a caregiver, because a baby cannot regulate themselves. A child cannot regulate themselves. Safe, attuned relationships with therapists, practitioners, friends, partners, even animals, even nature are genuinely regulating. Not as a metaphor, but biologically, your nervous system reads the signals of another regulated nervous system and uses them as a reference point. This is why you can do all the right practices and still feel stuck if you're doing them in isolation. So lastly, a simple practice. I want you to leave with something you can try right now. So find a comfortable position. You don't need to close your eyes if that doesn't feel good. You can just soften your gaze instead. And take a moment to notice, where do you feel most settled in your body right now? It might be a small area. It might just be one foot or one hand, or the feeling of your back against the chair. It doesn't have to feel good, just neutral or okay. And just rest your attention there for a moment. Now take a breath, not a forced deep breath, just a natural one. And let the exhale be a little longer than the inhale. A longer exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It's a gentle signal to the body that it's okay to settle. Because if you can imagine, if there is actually a threat and you're having to run or fight or hide, you're not going to be able to take a nice long exhale, right? So that's a real simple way to let our nervous system know that everything is okay. So do that just 2 or 3 times. And just notice, is there anything that shifted even slightly? Maybe a small release somewhere, maybe a tiny bit more space. Some things that we are looking for when we're doing somatic work is a yawn or a nice big sigh. Sometimes we'll hear bellies gurgling. Sometimes it'll just be a shift in the facial features. There'll be a little bit of a softening. So these are things to just pay attention to say, oh, my system must be shifting right now. It must be okay. If any of you have a dog and your dog gets up on the couch and circles and then plops down and then is, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that sensation. Anytime that happens, it is your nervous system receiving new information that it's okay to be here, that this moment is safe enough. That's what the dog's nervous system is saying in that moment on the couch, right? That's what we're looking for. That's how the window widens. More of those. Not in these big leaps and bounds, not in these huge shifts or aha moments, but in these very small experiences of, oh, in this very moment, I am okay. So if this resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it. And if you are interested in going deeper into this work, please reach out to me. My contact information is in the show notes. And we have a couple of offerings coming up. If this resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with someone who might need it. And if you want to go deeper with this work, I recommend that you sign up for our newsletter because all of our offerings and information is shared monthly in that newsletter. And just remember, your nervous system is not your enemy. It's doing its best with the information it has. And its number one job is to keep you safe. And that's what it's trying to do. And your job and my job in this work is just to keep giving it new information, one moment at a time. Thank you.